Hey guys, today's video is a wheel comparison of these four wheels. We're going to be seeing how each of them stack up. We're going to be looking at speed, how much braking power they have, and the overall performance, and which is the best value for money. Before we get too far into this video, I want to give a shout out to everybody who made this possible. First of all, thank you to these three brands for sending me these wheels to check out, and thank you to the Patreons and everyone else who sent me some money to buy the SEISMIC Alphas. SEISMIC did not send me any free wheels for this, and we had to pay for it, but fortunately the community came together, gave me some cash, I put something in it as well. So yeah, full list of everyone who contributed at the end of the video. The first thing I want to touch on is testing methodology. I do everything I can to make this test as fair and as accurate as possible, but there are too many variables and I'm severely limited with what I can do. As you guys are going to see, some of the results allow me to make, and hopefully you, make confident conclusions about a given wheel's performance. However, with some of the other results, when you account for room for error and the fact that we can't control the testing environment, mean that we can't necessarily make confident conclusions about how the wheels perform against each other. Nonetheless, I think the information we get from the testing and my anecdotal experience should give us enough information to tell us which wheel is great at what. The first thing we have to do is wash the wheels and make sure there's no oily mold release still left on the skin that's going to make them slide and perform inaccurately. Washing the wheels is a necessary step. Not all the wheel manufacturing companies use mold release, but if you want your wheels to perform the best and want nothing left to chance, it's wise that you do wash your wheels. Most people just chuck them in the dishwasher though, but yeah. The first test is a speed test. I wanted to see how fast these wheels go. For this test, I'd be doing it twice with each wheel, doing the first round and then cycling through with the same order of wheels on the second round. To keep it fair, I'd be doing 10 pushes with each wheel. This would also allow me to see how easy a wheel was to push and how easy I could get it up to speed. I'd then take very similar lines down the hill, recording everything on my GoPro, using that as my GPS, and I'd stand up at the same specific spot. Getting off the line, the best at acceleration for me were the Maverick Pros, but I have to say I'm a bit biased because I've been skating these wheels for a really long time. Alphas were the second best, followed by Magnums. The CUEI A1s feel a little bit gummy and it kind of felt like they didn't accelerate all that well. And out of all of the wheels, Alphas felt like they accelerated the best. I didn't feel like I was able to push and get them up to speed that quickly, but they did accelerate well. I suppose that small size, 75.5 millimeters, that dense urethane and large core allows them to accelerate quicker. And talking about feel and anecdotal experience, some of it was inaccurate when you consider the GPS data, but surprisingly it was reliable in some cases, which is pretty interesting. In terms of getting to the point where I needed to stand up, the Alphas got there first, followed by the Magnums, then followed by the Mavericks, with the CUEIs not too far off either. But I don't want to give too much credence to this because it could just be a matter of line choice. And really I'm not sure how much covering a distance is reflective of a wheel's acceleration, but for now I think I'm going to consider it. And the GPS data is actually pretty surprising. The top speed went to the CUEIs with a speed of 78 km per hour. In second place was the Alphas with 77 km, and tied for third were the Magnums and the Mavericks. If we take the data from the raw runs, it can be implied that the Alphas have the best overall acceleration, followed by the Magnums and then the Mavericks and the CUEIs. The second round of testing had more of the same. I started with 10 pushes off the line. The CUEIs, just as before, felt sluggish. Alphas accelerated really well. I enjoyed pushing on the Mav Pro because I'm used to it, and Magnums felt so-so. It being a heavy wheel, it definitely has a lot of inertia. Coming down the hill, I tried to take the same lines again. I think I was a bit more consistent this time, and yeah. First to reach this point was the Magnums, followed closely by the Alphas, and then we had the CUEI A1s and the Mav Pros in last. The GPS data was a bit surprising this time. With the fastest top speed we had Magnums with 79, followed by CUEIs, then Alphas, then Mavericks. So yeah, the very surprising result of that test was the slower feeling, slow acceleration CUEI A1 ended up being the fastest, followed by the Magnums, then the Alphas, then the MAV Pros. But I don't know how much credence or how much weight I want to give to that test. There are a lot of variables we really couldn't control. For example, the wind. We don't know how much the wind affected that test. Maybe the GPS data was a little bit off. And the fact that most of the results are within a kilometer or two within each other makes me feel that test wasn't entirely truly reflective of how these wheels perform. But there are two things I want to take away from that test. The smaller wheels, the Alphas and the Magnums, end up accelerating and getting to that speed and getting over that distance quicker than the heavier wheels, the CUEI A1s and the MAV Pros. So a smaller wheel does accelerate faster. The other thing is that even though a wheel is sluggish and slow feeling, it will eventually reach to that top speed, even though it gets over that distance in a much slower time. I will also say the other limitation of this test is I think these bigger wheels may eventually go even faster than these smaller wheels, but that's only shown over a longer distance. I unfortunately don't have a really long hill to test this, so yeah. However, if you have done similar testing in the past or if you have any insight, I would love to see what you have to say in the comments. The next test was going to be fairly simple. I was going to check how much slowdown power these wheels have. I'd be starting at a specific point and then sliding at a specific point and marking out where the wheels would stop. I was first going to try this on a smoother road and then do this on a rougher road. I'd be doing this twice with each wheel. Though this test is simple enough, I think I messed it up a bit. I would sometimes fall off the board when coming to a stop, so my stops weren't always consistent. That said, even when I would stay on the board, I'd end up getting a similar distance, so I don't know. Number two, this distance isn't long enough for us to see any huge differences between the wheels. But fortunately, on the next test, on the rough road, I rectify all of those issues. The results ended up being quite close to each other. This was surprising, but also this test wasn't really well done, and I'd say maybe take it with a pinch of salt. It's not entirely accurate. So these are the stopping distances from over there. I don't think I was going all that fast. I wish I chose a bigger distance. I think it would have been more revealing in the differences between the wheels. Also, I don't know if I was going the same speed with all the wheels. Some accelerate less than others, so there's that. I don't think this is a conclusive test, but I don't know, man. They all felt pretty grippy. The 88 Wilco wheels didn't feel grippy at all. They felt like they were butter, but they still stopped me. So I don't know, it's just really weird and very inconclusive. But I have another stopping power test that hopefully should be more revealing than this one. Again, just like the other test, I'd start from a specific point, only this time I'd be pushing in 6 times with each wheel, and then I'd start sliding at a specific point and then mark it out where I stop with the wheel. I believe this test was more consistent and I was getting more consistent results. I was able to come to a controlled stop because I was doing a toe side, which I much prefer over a hillside. That's crazy. As you guys know, the increased speed means the wheels have a lot more work to do and take a longer distance to bring you to a full stop. With this, we're able to see bigger difference between the stopping power of the wheels and see which are better. And the results are pretty interesting. The top 3 are within about a meter or about 3 feet of each other, but the slightest one is pretty far off, being about 2 meters off from the best braking wheel. So yeah, the results. We have Alphas, which slowed me down the most from about there, followed by CUEIs, and Magnums sort of having a draw, and then in last place we have Maverick Pros. So I started the slide about here and ended about there. So the results are pretty indicative of how I felt. I felt that the Alphas were the most grippy, and the CUEI Magnums were slightly on par, and the Mavericks also felt the most sleepy. However, I am testing them on a slightly rough road. When my American friend visited, he said the road was pretty rough, so I'm gonna assume for Americans this road is rough. Also, I think the Magnum's result could be a little bit better. Whenever I would slide over the yellow line, I could feel them considerably icing out. This wasn't an issue for the other wheels, and I think it's because of the smaller contact patch, but with the wider contact patch of the Magnums, when there's like a slippier patch, they really do slide. The Mavericks are really surprising. Well, not that surprising. I know they don't work all that well on rougher, dirtier roads, but you know, these wheels all sort of work great in most conditions apart from the Mavs, so big disadvantage irregardless of the conditions. And it's really annoying that the one company that didn't send me the product at all, SEISMIC, is having really good performance in this whole project thing. The other thing is that I think because of how narrow they are, and they have like a really narrow tracking width on my board, so that suits my style more, and I'm able to really push my weight into them. I think the other wheels, I need like a bit more time on them to really get used to them and make the most out of them. But of course with the Magnums, I don't think I could do any better, to be very honest with you guys, unless I had a narrow tracking width. But yeah. The next handful of laps were a lot more interesting. I wanted to see how these wheels felt over a lap, and I wasn't necessarily comparing how they'd fare against each other in terms of time, but really how they felt in corners. Were they nimble? How much grip and confidence did they inspire? You know, that sort of thing. First up were the MAV Pros. I've been skating these wheels a long time, so it's really hard for me to compare them against the other wheels. But over a lap, in comparison, they did still feel quite competitive, even though they didn't have the same amount of confidence-inspiring grip around corners as the other wheels, or the same slowdown power. They were still pretty competitive in my opinion. That said, the other wheels are better than these ones in most things, so it's hard to really justify them as a rider. I also want to add that these wheels are nothing like the pre-production model that these guys sent me to test and review. Every post-production set that I've tried has not matched up to that pre-production model. I don't know if they did something or changed something in the manufacturing process, but that review I made on the pre-production set has not been reflected in every single post-production MAV Pro that I've skated. And even though people make podiums on them, I can't wholeheartedly recommend these wheels with the way they presently are. Next up, we have the SEISMIC Alphas. I think I was the most naturally fast on this wheel, meaning that it suits my style as a rider. Because of how nimble, small and light the wheel is, I felt it was very easy to like throw it into a slide, to quickly change direction and take better lines. I felt like I had to be less deliberate with my line choice, and I could be more last minute with my movements, like diving into the corner at the last possible second, and yeah. But even though they were quite grippy, I still felt like I could control them easily in the slides. They weren't intimidating, but surprisingly, that grippiness didn't translate to in-corner grip. Like this corner, I wasn't necessarily 100% comfortable riding them on the limit. I was more comfortable than the Mavs, but they weren't crazy confidence inspiring. But yeah, I got a great line on this corner, which I was really stoked about. They're great wheels. Next up were the CUEI A1s. Out of the bunch, these were the most sluggish feeling wheel. They felt pretty heavy and they didn't want to change direction that quickly. They had a lot of inertia, even more than the Magnums, and they weren't nimble at all. It then wasn't really a problem when it came to hands down stuff, but I had to be more deliberate with my line choice. But what they lacked in nimbleness, they made up for with in-corner grip and edge grip, and just generally how confidence inspiring they were. That edge grip or in-corner grip was so confidence inspiring. I felt very confident riding these wheels at the limit, and they give you so much feedback and they really hold you in that corner that it makes you feel extremely confident and you want to take very risky lines and push your limits. I was only able to grip this corner full speed on these wheels. I didn't feel confident on any other. I don't know what it is about these wheels, but under load they're extremely confidence inspiring. Next up is the Magnums. Now the Magnums are really interesting. Despite being so wide and so tall and actually pretty heavy, when you're actually skating them, they still feel pretty nimble. They felt closer to the Alphas than to the Mavericks and CUEI A1s. I also felt pretty fast around corners on them. I think because they're side set and with that width, it's really easy to ride that edge of traction without necessarily accessing the full grip, if that makes sense. But it's certainly also a double-edged sword. I feel like there's a riding style, especially for me, to make the most out of these wheels. And whilst I was still pretty fast, in my opinion, probably one of my fastest laps down this road on this day, I still think I haven't fully figured out how to ride them. Like in this corner, I wasn't able to take it full speed because I didn't really feel like the in-corner grip of the Magnums. But yeah, they kind of do everything pretty well. They're sort of like a jack of all trades wheel, and yeah, they're pretty great. So I took a couple more laps on this run that gets up to 75 kilometers per hour and is brake heavy. It's also quite steep. So in terms of skin durability, the wheel that was the worst has to be the MAV Pros. Midway through the slide, the skin on the wheels ended up evaporating, and though I took a dirt line here, I did end up falling. Not the MAV Pro's fault, that's rider error. The other wheels were able to still have skin despite taking multiple laps down this hill. So yeah, that puts the MAV Pros in last for skin durability. In third place, we have the Magnums, and tied for second are the CUEIs and the Alphas. But honestly, between these top three wheels, like, I can't 100% confirm which is the most durable. They're all pretty durable. And between the bunch, if I had to race tomorrow, I'd probably pick the Alphas because I'm naturally fastest on them. If I had a longer time to practice, the Magnums, and if it was a track that was brake heavy, had a lot of corners where I needed to carry a lot of speed through, I'd 100% be going with the CUEI A1s. Performance aside, the wheel I had the most fun on has to be the CUEI A1s. Being able to smash aggressive lines in corners and carry so much speed were super fun to me. That said, when you do consider value for money, I think, because I didn't get to test the durability of the urethane, I think simply looking at how much urethane you have to go through is the prudent choice. So I think it's between the Mavericks, Magnums, and the CUEI A1s. Finally, let's talk about overall performance. I think this goes to the two best performing wheels, which have to be the Magnums and the Alphas. Between those two wheels, on most tracks, you're going to be pretty fast. I think the other wheels were great at specific things, but the Magnums were definitely the best at sort of everything, you know, jack of all trades type of wheel. And I still think there's more performance for me to gain out of using them. I think I'd have to dedicate my riding style to them and really figure them out, but I think if you were to practice with them for a significant time, you'd definitely be fastest on them in comparison to other wheels. That said, I do believe the Alphas would suit a lighter rider weighing about 75 kgs or 165 pounds a little bit more. I think the Magnums need a little bit of weight in order to compress the lips and get them to work properly. But ultimately, I think on a really good day, you'd probably be faster on the Magnums, but on most days, you'd probably be equally as fast on both wheels. And yeah. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. Shout out to these homies for helping me make this video, sending me some cash. Thank you to the Patreons. Thank you to the brands that send me wheels. No thank you to SEISMIC. And yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed the video and catch you in the next one. As always, leave a comment, a like, and all that good stuff. Thank you as well to Andrew for filming. Wouldn't be possible without you, mate.